Hey everybody, it's Lon.TV. We've got more USB Type-C stuff to look at today. I've got an adapter here from Sabrent that will take a SATA connector like so that you can use with a SSD, for example, and it converts it into USB Type-C. So you can plug it into your new computer and get a pretty fast drive connected to it, perhaps at a lower price than some of these self-contained USB SSDs that we've been looking at lately. So when you buy one of these drives, you might pay a little more, but the entire drive mechanism, including the interface to USB-C, is included inside the device. With this one, of course, you're going to have two pieces, but it does seem to attach itself pretty firmly on here. We're going to be taking a look at some of the performance advantages, perhaps, of using something like this in just a second. But I do want to mention, in the interest of full disclosure, this came in free of charge through the Amazon Vine program. However, all the opinions you're about to hear are my own. Nobody is paying for this review, and no one is reviewing this content before it is posted. So let's take a closer look at the hardware now. These things, of course, have existed for traditional USB connections, but I was eager to see what one of these new USB-C versions will look like, and it seems to work fairly well. As you saw before, very simple to get up and running here. You've got your SATA connector on this end. This supports up to 6 gigabits per second through its SATA connector here. It should work with just about any 2.5-inch SATA compatible drive like this SSD. I tested a bunch of SSDs that I have here. It also works with 2.5-inch spinning hard drives as well. All the power for the drive comes through the cable here along with the data. This does support USB 3.1 Gen 2, so if you have a drive that can completely saturate that SATA connection, your connection back to the computer will not get saturated, so that's a good thing. And you'll see in a minute the throughput on this seems to be working pretty well. And the price is pretty reasonable too at $17. The cable, though, does not come out of it, so this is the length you'll have with it. There's no way to put in your own cable, but it's kind of nice to have everything all self-contained here. So let's plug this into my Mac and see how it performs. So I've got the drive now connected up to my Mac, and you can see there is an indicator light to let us know what the drive is up to. And if we switch over to my Mac screen here, you can see we're running the Blackmagic disk speed test, and we're seeing write speeds here at over 470 megabytes per second out of this particular drive, and reads at around 500 megabytes per second or thereabouts. And that's about the performance, at least for sequential reads and writes, that I would expect out of this particular drive. Now, sequential reads and writes are not the only indicator, though, of performance, both for drives and the connectors that they are plugged into. We also need to look at how well it does with random reads and writes of smaller files, and that's typically something you might see while playing a game or trying to boot an operating system off the drive. And what I wanted to do is figure out what the baseline is for this particular SSD and see what kind of performance impediments the interface here introduces into the mix. So what I did is I took this WD drive and I installed it inside of my PC, plugged it right into the motherboard like any other hard drive, and ran some tests on it with the Crystal Disk Mark test to see how well it does random reads and writes in a more native environment. And on that test, we got a score of 40 megabytes per second on the random reads, and the random writes came in around 133 megabytes per second. So pretty good when directly connected up to that SATA connector inside the motherboard. Off the Sabrent device here, it's going to be a little slower. We got speeds of 17.6 megabytes per second on reads and about 25.26 megabytes per second on random writes. So slower, but that's about what we've typically seen with these USB interfaces. They do very well with the sequential data, which came in around the same speeds for what I saw on that SATA motherboard. But random reads and writes through the USB connection here will be slower. However, I don't think you're really going to notice anything detrimental to playing games or running an operating system off of it. I've been using one of these slower Samsung drives for quite a while now to boot Windows up on my Mac, and it's been perfectly fine, and you'll see actually slightly better performance out of the little Sabrent connector here. And I'm actually pretty impressed with what we're seeing for throughput, especially for those sequential reads and writes. So I think if you're looking for a really quick and easy solution for video capture or something where you're doing a large volume of data going back and forth to the drive, I think this thing will accomplish the goal quite well for you, and I think it's adequate enough to do gaming and booting operating systems up off of it too. And of course, you can choose which drive you connect to it, so you can buy faster or slower drives and know that you'll get pretty much the full capacity of those drives, especially for sequential reads and writes. This is Lon.TV. Thanks for watching.
This channel is brought to you by my Patreon supporters, including gold level supporters Mark Bollinger and Cody Falk. If you want to help the channel, you can by contributing as little as $1 a month. Head over to Lon.TV/Patreon to learn more. And don't forget to subscribe. Visit Lon.TV/S.